When watching a movie, there's probably nothing more satisfying or enjoyable to me than a solid twist at the end of it. Now, just 2 years before Planet of the Apes was produced in 1999, M Night Shymalan gave the moviegoer one of the best twists of all time in the movie The Sixth Sense, starring Bruce Willis. And ever since then, it seems movie after movie, TV show after TV show have been trying to replicate this. Now, I know that wasn't the first time that happened, but it seems like since then, it's definitely been a trend. Now, in 2001's Planet of the Apes, Tim Burton really tried to capitalize on this new trend, but in my opinion, left audiences confused and even angry with his very confusing ending. That said, much of this review, we're going to focus on the end of the film, theories around it. And if you have a theory or know what happened at the end, definitely chime in, because even 20 years later, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell happened. Now, if you recall in the movie, Mark Wahlberg, he chases his trained monkey Pericles through an electromagnetic storm and somehow time travels across galaxies or possibly time to possibly a parallel universe. And on this strange planet, apes rule, and Marky Mark leads the humans to a site. He leads them escaping from the apes and to a site of the apes' origins. Now, coincidentally, this is also the same place where Wahlberg is able to track his mothership, and he thinks his crew has already came to rescue him on this strange planet, but when he arrives, the ship has crashed and has been there for thousands of years. Still, Wahlberg, he's able to see the video feeds from the mothership, and soon the apes arrive and fight the inspired humans, but Pericles comes down in the middle of the fight to the planet, and all fighting ceases when he comes down. Wahlberg, he takes control of the space pod, sets his coordinates for back home, and then he crash lands in Washington, D.C., and what he believes he's home. He believes he's at the Lincoln Memorial initially, but when he arrives and walks up the stairs, what he sees is a statue of Thades, the evil ape from the planet he was just on. And this is another Planet of the Apes, essentially, but it essentially looks just like our society today. And this was the big twist, the big mystery, yet none of it really makes much sense. We know a few things. One, when one travels through the storm, the later they go through that electromagnetic storm, the earlier they arrive in time for some reason. We can also assume that Mark Wahlberg wasn't actually on planet Earth the whole time. I've heard theories about that, but the Planet of the Apes, the one he was on where he crashed, that it had 2 moons on it, so I don't think he was on planet Earth the entire time. Now, somehow Thades, the evil ape, was able to travel through time before Mark Wahlberg got back to Earth and lead the apes to dominate the humans. And the theory here is that, one of the popular theories is that Thades, he escaped from the mothership where he was behind the glass. He went back and he used Mark Wahlberg's pod, which was under the water, possibly getting Pericles to show him how it works, to guide him. And then the pod was able to track Mark Wahlberg's pod, and Thades, as he went through, he arrived on Earth just thousands of years before Wahlberg. But still, this theory, like a lot of it, has so many plot holes. For one, how would he lead the apes against the humans? Assuming he arrives before the apes were genetically modified like they were with Mark Wahlberg, and the time period then is around like 2150, I think. They weren't able to speak, obviously, thousands of years ago, so there's no way they're going to be able to overtake the humans. Also, why does the civilization look just like ours too? If he did arrive when the apes were genetically modified, though, how were the apes able to overpower the entire human civilization? You know, the entire industrial military complex. Now, on the spaceship, it makes sense how this happens. How, what's that ape's name? I can't remember. Seamus is able to lead them because there's not, the apes probably outnumber the humans. It's a confined space. But on Earth, we can pretty much assume there's not hundreds of thousands of these genetically modified apes, very smart apes. And this kind of leads to the theory I have, and the only thing that could really make sense. And again, if you have an opinion on this, definitely chime in, let me know. But my theory is that this is the multiverse. It's the multiverse theory, which essentially says, there's an infinite number of parallel universes out there. In other words, somewhere in the universe, another you exists, another me exists, somewhere just like we are living just right now, maybe slightly different, but there's an infinite number. So in theory, when Wahlberg went through the storm, he was whisked away to another parallel universe, and there was another ape also named AIDS. It was a different ape, and it was the dominant military leader. This explains also the landscape looking like Washington, D.C. as well. Of course, the odds of going to something like that, what are they? They're astronomically low. But still, that's kind of my theory, and it could be different. I'm curious to know if you know what happened, but that's the only thing that I can figure out that actually makes sense. Now, as far as the rest of the movie, I would say it was average. It's probably the second best of the new movies. This was a remake, and then the other ones like Dawn of Planet of the Apes, those ones were all, that's a relaunch that they did. Dawn of Planet of the Apes with James Franco, John Lithgow, that was probably the best one in my opinion. Still, though, I thought Wahlberg was pretty good in this film. Much of the supporting cast was pretty forgettable in terms of the humans, but the apes were much more memorable in this movie than some of the other movies. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, especially, which I'm going to review probably pretty soon here as I've seen it. Still, I think that, they weren't as good as Caesar. Caesar was definitely very memorable, and some of the others in the rebooted movies too. I also have to say, 20 years later, the apes, 20 years ago, the apes don't look that bad, the costumes. Still, this wasn't an awesome movie by any means, and despite a confusing ending, it was still entertaining enough to watch. Anyhow, let me know your thoughts, any comment, feedback on this movie. Did you like it? Did you like the ending? Was it simply done just for shock value, just to get people talking? That's another possibility here. Thank you.